What does everyone, including me, get wrong about Sheila? Let's find out. Hi there, I'm Giles Goff. I'm an education writer and a recovering English teacher. And today we're looking at the character of Sheila Birling, one of the main characters, arguably the main character in An Inspector Calls. Let's get into it. She is Mr. and Mrs. Birling's eldest child. She is in her early 20s and quite pretty. That's how she's described in the stage directions early on. She's the older sister to Eric, and she's recently engaged to Gerald Croft. The dinner that they're having that night is to celebrate that engagement. So the big idea that I wanted to look at here is the idea of Sheila's insecurity. When Sheila learns about Eva Smith / Daisy Renton's death, one of the first things she asks is whether she was pretty. Now, think about that for a moment. Why would you need to ask that? What difference does that make? And then let's go a little bit further to where she said what she did to her in the shop. She said, if she'd been some plain miserable little creature, I don't suppose I'd have done it. But she was very pretty and could take care of herself. Now, why exactly is Sheila associating being pretty to being able to take care of yourself? What's the causal connection there? Well, Sheila associates beauty with survival, and there's a very simple reason for this. Sheila doesn't work herself. She doesn't have a profession to fall back on. Her entire world is still based on this idea that she should find a wealthy husband, make a good match, and be set for life, basically. And one of the things that's going to help with that is looking pretty. So, yeah, from Sheila's perspective, if you look pretty, that has a better chance that you will be able to take care of yourself, in the words that she says. In the small, ignorant world that she lives in, these two things make total sense. Now, let's look at some key quotes here, some that I wanted to draw your attention to. When she gets the engagement ring, she says, "Oh, Gerald, you've got it. Is it the one you wanted me to have?" Now, look at that wording there. Is it the one you wanted me to have? Now, if you have any married women or engaged women in your life, ask them if they picked out their engagement ring or if their husband or husband-to-be picked it out. Because it seems odd to me that she lets Gerald pick out her engagement ring. It seems to me like somebody who just wants what people want for her around her. She doesn't have enough agency to even be able to pick out her own engagement ring right at the start. So that's really interesting. It shows that she's quite easily molded right at the start. And then towards the end here in Act 3, you began to learn something and now you've stopped. This is referencing the fact that they were beginning to evolve, they were beginning to change, and they were beginning to see the error of their ways. And then at the first opportunity, they kind of fall back into their old patterns. Now, okay, confession time. I might have overstated it in the intro, in the teaser, where I said, what do all productions get wrong about Sheila? And the thing I was trying to point out, it's not every production, it is definitely some, and I can't tell if it's intentional or if it's something going on in subconscious. But the thing I wanted to point out is that Sheila's often styled as less physically attractive than Eva Smith. But there's no textual evidence for this. Let's look at these two actresses here from the 2015 version. You've got Sheila over here in the red, and you've got Eva Smith here in the green. Now, Eva Smith is wearing like the sheer effect with this sort of green dress there. She's looking very vulnerable. Facial expression on Sheila there's a slight defiance to her, a slight edge to her. Also, if you look at the red, that's a very thick, I would almost say kind of maroon colour. The sleeve kind of comes down at an awkward point. It seems to be past the elbow, so it's a little bit uncomfortable there. It's a very opulent kind of red that you've got. And also, if you look at the bust of it, it looks very kind of puffy, frankly. What she's wearing looks like it would be more comfortable as a pair of curtains than as an actual dress. So she's kind of styled to be less appealing than Eva. Eva has this kind of mystery and vulnerability going on there, and that's not apparent with Sheila. That's the choice they've gone for here, and it's not the only production that's done this. I can't think of any names of them, but other productions have definitely gone out of their way to show that Sheila is less attractive than Eva Smith in some way, shape or form. But, as we say, there's no textual evidence for this. Sheila just thinks Eva is prettier. In fact, if we look at the stage directions, that she's described as a young girl of about 20s, early 20s, quite pretty. So textually, they're more or less on the same level of attractiveness, for want of a better phrase. Sheila is described as pretty, Eva is described as quite pretty. That's it. It's actually more interesting when they look similar. If we look at the Alistair Sim 1954 Inspector Calls, we've got Eileen Moore playing Sheila on the right here, and we've got Jane Watson playing Eva on the left here. Colouring wise, they're quite different. Colouring wise, they're quite similar in terms of their hair colour, their sort of complexion. And if you look at the way they're being framed in these two particular shots, it's two high angles looking down as they're sat there. We're actually being invited to draw a comparison between these two and think to ourselves, actually they're pretty similar. The only thing that makes them different is one was born into a wealthy family and one was born into a poor family. And you've got a much more impactful political statement when you're able to make the two women look similar in some way, shape or form. So one of the key terms I want to draw your attention to is that Sheila is a dynamic character. That means she's the most sympathetic character, but it also means she's the one that changes the most throughout the play. As we've talked about in the past, dynamic characters tend to be the protagonist. They tend to be the ones that are changing. It tends to be the story that we're following that's theirs. So you could argue that Sheila is the protagonist of an Inspector Calls. I appreciate, obviously, it is an ensemble play, but Sheila is arguably the main character because she's like the audience proxy. She's the one who we're meant to see things through her eyes and her perspective. She did a bad thing. She learns that her family did even worse things. And Sheila, obviously, I think what Priestley is going for is Sheila could represent a new, younger generation of the ability to learn from their mistakes and change for the better. So what do you think about Sheila? Do you think she's the main character in the play? Do you think she's often made to look less pretty than Eva Smith? Is that something that's just completely come from me, or are you starting to see that kind of pattern as well? Let's talk about it in the comments. I hope that's proved useful and that's given you something for your essays. Please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.